the suppression, the use of marijuana.
Did I tell you about Fisheries, the game that Drake got?
No, it's another fish-related game.
Yeah, it's from the guy who makes Ecologies.
Oh,
so
sure.
It's Montrose Biology is the company name. It's just one guy. His name's Matt Montrose.
They do not sponsor us.
They do not. No, it's just a guy. He's a biology teacher. And
that's right.
He created Ecologies to teach kids basically about that. And he's been working on Fisheries for a while. And Drake is like, he talks to Drake all the time.
Oh, that's fun.
I know, it's very cute. So he mentioned Fisheries a while ago, which is a totally different game. It's still like a card game,
sure.
But it plays entirely differently. And it has a lot of fish facts. But it's like, it's in its rough stages. It is very, very early stages. So that's been like our life recently. It's just like playing Fisheries and trying to fix it.
Oh,
so
sure.
It's been very fun. So we have like a bunch of new ideas. And so we're like play testing some of our ideas and trying to get it to like a finished point so that we can go back to Matt Montrose. I say we, Drake. You can go back to Matt Montrose and be like, here's the game. We fixed it.
That's cute, though.
I know. It's very fun. It's a fun game. I have fun.
It is kind of well-timed with the release of Finspan, though.
Yep.
I was like, oh, lots of fish are
Yeah, just a
going
lot
around.
of fish.
It's Pisces season. Well,
Not anymore.
Not anymore, yeah.
What are we in now?
Aries,
Is this
because
Aries? Oh,
Sam's
of course
in
it is.
Aries.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I learned that and I was like, you're at the wrong side of the month of March.
Yeah.
It's fine. It makes a lot of sense, though.
Word.
Okay, well, Fisheries. We will be on the lookout for Fisheries.
Yeah, sometime far in the future. It's not even close to ready.
Is the design of it like gonna be a similar style where it's very like...
Yes, it looks super similar, like the cards themselves. Like the artwork and stuff looks really similar, but it's just not the same game.
Oh, okay.
Kind of, but
that's
it's
good.
very cute.
It's good to
Very
have
cute.
variety in that regard.
We have a lot of fun.
I love that. I'm excited.
That's been my brain for past couple of weeks.
I love the idea of board games. I just don't get to do them.
Valid.
I just watch other people play. Just like video games. It's the same concept. I like want to play really badly and I love to follow things that are being created, but then I never actually partake in it. And I'm like, oh, that was nice for the moment.
Yeah.
Although I did get to play Overcooked with Victor the other day because our therapist was like, okay, so you're going to start scheduling like a time for you guys to just hang out and not be efficient in your house and run everything. And I was like, okay. And then Victor had a really hard time understanding what that meant. I was like, this is why he's making a schedule list. But we played Overcooked and I was like, this is still us working together.
Yeah, that's okay.
But it was fun. Like, we had a fun time. I think we both enjoyed it. But it was just like, wait a minute.
We're still working.
We're still, God.
That's
we
okay.
have problems.
You are valid.
I'm Tia.
I'm Jamie.
Ryan's still not here.
Correct.
And we're the ADHD Queens.
Yay.
It is March. End of March now.
Yes, it is.
Ugh. How did that happen?
The passage of time.
I feel like January was eons.
Yeah, February just skipped right on by.
And then March just kind of didn't slow down too much after that.
Nope.
I need that. It's really a mixed bag of feelings on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we read The Final Strife. Yes, The Final Strife by Sarah El-Arifi.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I got much better than the last time I said it, but I did listen to them actively say it this time.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to actually hear them.
Great.
And I feel like it was pretty similar. Although I don't know the accent of the narrator because I feel like they changed their accents pretty well.
Yeah.
So regardless, it was a fun time, and we visited Ghana, but not like real Ghana.
Yeah, the author is from Ghana, and
We visited a science fiction?
I would say this is
More
kind of fantasy.
I never understood the exact definitions other than like tech stuff, because when I look at the library, some stuff that I'm like, oh, this is absolutely fantasy, will be like, no, this is sci-fi. And I was like, I don't know who's doing this, but I think you're wrong.
I guess my assumption is fantasy is kind of depending on what stuff it is, but like this would be considered high fantasy because it happens in a world that is not our world.
Yeah.
And then low fantasy would be magic-y stuff that happens in our world. And then sci-fi, yeah, there has to be some kind of like some technological, like scientific something.
I get often it's like monsters that are like humanoids are considered more sci-fi, but I always considered them fantasy just because I was like, there's like some magic to it, but that's not how I guess most people view it.
I guess it would sort of depend for me on like how they came about.
Sure.
You know?
Okay. No, that's fair.
Because if it was like aliens, that's sci-fi.
Yeah. But then I was like, vampires, that's always been like a fantasy thing to me.
Yeah.
But then some people are like, but werewolves are sci-fi. Because
I
was like,
agree with that.
Yeah. So lines are being crossed here.
I think that when I see something and I decide that it's fantasy, then I'm right.
Fantasy. Okay, cool.
That is my definition.
Fair. We'll go with that then.
That vibes. Vibes alone.
Thank you for coming to our TED Talk. Cool. So some facts about Ghana. It was formerly known as the Gold Coast, and it became the first African country to gain independence from the British.
Oh, wow.
March 6, 1957. My birthday.
Oh, my God. So
Who
many
knew
years
we would
before.
still talk about that?
Yeah.
But it was known as the Gold Coast. Guess why?
Because there was gold there?
Because there was gold.
Because there was gold there.
Just like California. But what I wanted to know was more about the jollof rice because food. And it's pretty much just like a specialty rice from the local area. Nigeria and them have like a little battle between them about it. Mm-hmm. But it typically has rice, tomato paste, and then like herbs and spices depending on where it's from, which we have in like Mexican tradition as well. Yeah. And a lot of other places because those are just basic ingredients. But I was trying to figure out what exactly was the special thing about it.
Yeah.
So I just need to go to Africa.
I think that's
just find out. So maybe someday. But yeah, it's pretty basic. But I was like, but they fight over it. So obviously
they do.
This is important.
And it's very important.
And I also want to learn about the other meals that they talked about. And I liked that too. As they incorporated actual food and things that were real to give us more cultural context. I was like, this is so good. But yeah, we got to visit this ultra fantasy version of Ghana, and it was actually a really fun ride. I enjoyed this.
It was so good. I had such a good time.
The author is fantastic at world building, at least in my humble opinion that I believe is 100% correct.
And it is. Because I also agree with it.
See, okay. We need Ryan to bring us down a little. Or not. It's fine. He'd probably be like, no, you guys are right.
You're right.
Except that time he disagreed with us.
Yeah.
But whatever. Anyway.
Sorry that we have the exact same brain.
So fantasy, but also very queer friendly. I'm very excited about that. I don't believe it's the first one that we've read to be queer friendly, but it felt very much a part of the story.
Yes.
Instead of just being like in the background. Mm-hmm. And I loved that. Any other, do you want to do the summary?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I got a summary. So this episode is going to be extremely spoiler heavy. It's a huge world, but in order to really talk about it, we're going to get into a lot of spoilers. So if you want to listen to this book at any point, pause at any point during this episode and come back to it when you finish this book because it is so, so, so good. but we will be spoiling. We will be spoiling so much.
But like, really, we really, really want you guys to actually read the
I really
books.
want you to read it. Go read it now.
We're trying to have influence here without being influencers.
All right. So the setting, I don't know that they said a name. I don't know that they said it's
Outside
like
of the Empire
or something.
Yeah,
which is just
not until like way
whatever.
later when they start talking about other stuff. But
Yeah, but like
yeah.
mostly this is just like a nebulous empire.
Yep.
And society is broken up. It's racism, but by blood color instead of skin color.
Right.
So you have kind of 3 echelons of society. You have the uppermost, which is the embers, and they have red blood. So they are the top people. They are wealthy, usually, but I mean, more so it's just kind of like white people, where like you can't get to the upper echelon in society unless you are an ember with red blood, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are in the topmost.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of embers have like ember servants. So,
Yeah.
you know, people there is still poverty, but you basically cannot be in the upper echelon of society unless you have red blood.
right.
Next set down is the dusters. So they have blue blood. It's rough for them. They are mistreated. They are second-class citizens. They have extreme poverty, as opposed to even just like the more poor embers, red-blooded. And then below the dusters with their blue blood is ghostings, who have translucent blood. And they are full-on slaves. So they are not servants. They are slaves. And they have, like at birth or shortly after birth, they have their hands and tongues cut off. Because hundreds of years ago, there was an uprising from the ghostings class. And so when they were sort of torn down, they were like, we're going to teach you guys a lesson for all existence. So it's been hundreds of years, and every single ghosting that is born with translucent blood has their hands and their tongues cut off. So they have developed their own sign language that takes into consideration the fact that none of them have hands, but has a lot of like gestures and like arm movements and limb movements and facial expressions and stuff.
Yeah.
So dusters and embers don't know it. They just sort of kind of don't see ghostings, and they don't really consider that ghostings can have conversations or have thoughts. Besides our main character, who is Scylla, who we'll get to in a minute, but she learns the ghosting sign language. She can't speak it because there's a lot of intricacies that you kind of have to do with a body that doesn't look like hers.
Yeah.
But she speaks back to them, and she can understand what they're saying. So other aspects of the society, you have wardens. Wardens are the ones that are in charge of everything.
There's 4 technically.
Yes, I know that there's a warden of strength, a warden of truth, and I don't remember the other ones. And then there's a fake one that is the warden of crime, who is not a real warden, but basically is.
I think knowledge is the other one.
Knowledge, and then there's another one.
This is why I wanted to bring the physical book, but I left it at home.
Yeah, that's fair. I wrote down strength and truth, and then I was like, I'll go back with the other ones, and then I didn't.
Those are like the ones that
Those are the kind of big ones that we see a lot of.
Yeah.
So they are the rulers. Every single one of them has a disciple who is a successor to the title. So if something were to happen to the Warden of Strength, their disciple takes over. And then every 10 years, the old warden retires, and then the disciple takes over, and then we get a new disciple. The new disciple is chosen in the Actabar, so that's a competition to pick all the new disciples. This happens every 10 years. That is sort of what the entire plot is framed around. It's the new Actabar to pick the new warden disciples. Another few random things to keep in mind about the society. You have the Sandstorm. So the Sandstorm is a rebellion organization of dusters. They were created to overthrow the Embers. And a big thing about them is that they stole children. They like kidnapped babies from Embers and replaced them with duster babies. And basically in order to raise them to be rebels. So a couple of those that we see are Scylla and Jond. Talk about them in a minute. But most of them were wiped out in an attack that Scylla thought killed everybody but herself and her guardian. It didn't, but she doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Everyone believes that they were completely eradicated, but at the beginning of this book, we find out that it has not been, and she is introduced to the concept that there is a new sandstorm that is basically still trying to do the same thing as the old one, but it's bigger and better and newer. There is also the tide wind is happening in the background of all of these things. It's just like a nightly windstorms that will kill you if you are outside during them.
You just get eroded immediately.
So at one point, some servant gets stuck outside, and he is mentioned as having lost all the skin on his arms and half of his face. So that is what these winds are doing. And then in general, there's like blood magic happening. So basically blood magic in that you do actually use the blood, and it has to be red blood. So, and it's not like crazy magic. It's not like you just like throw your blood at something and it explodes. It's like push and pull. So you can like write runes to either push something or pull something or whatever.
When you like layer them and it becomes more complex.
Then you can do more things with it. But like at its fundamental core, those are kind of the things that you can do with it. So our main character is Scylla. She is an ember living as a duster, so she has red blood, but she was kidnapped as a child from an ember, so she has been raised as a duster, so she can't let anyone see her blood because then they will know that she is actually an ember and not as a duster. So she was raised by the sandstorm, and she has this grief and guilt the entire book that she was the one who destroyed the sandstorm. So she's always like, it's my fault that the whole sandstorm fell. And then we have Anor, who is a duster living as an ember, who got switched with Scylla as a baby.
And she's the only one who didn't get murdered.
Yep, because her mother, her adoptive mother, that Scylla was taken away from, was the Warden of Strength. So actually, at the beginning of this book, the new Warden of Strength is picked, or the new Warden of Strength takes over, who is the disciple. It is Anor's mother. And so Scylla was taken from the Warden of Strength as a baby, switched with Anor. So Anor has been raised in this world, and her mother sucks. She is a heinous bitch. So she doesn't quite have the life of luxury that Scylla originally assumes that she has, because she's like, well, you were raised in the wealth that I was not raised in. And then we also have a couple other people. We have Hassa, who is a ghosting. So she is Scylla's friend. She is the reason that Scylla knows the sign language, because Scylla needs to buy drugs from her because she is not doing well at the beginning of this book.
Her coping is not great.
It's not awesome. And then we have Jond, who is another stolen child. He and Scylla kind of have this romantic connection from when they were children. And then we have Lute, who is the Warden of Crime, and who, so he was in charge of the fighting rings where Scylla gets a lot of money at the beginning of the book. And then he just kind of has puppet strings happening throughout everything. So the book starts when the next Actabar is coming up. So Scylla was raised to join this particular Actabar and become the next disciple of strength, because that was the whole Sandstorm's plot. They were all going to raise these children to win at these, and then all of a sudden they would have a government of a bunch of wardens that were raised by them to rebel. And then they could just destroy the government. So Jond has shown up and been like, hey, I'm not dead. And also the sandstorm is not dead. And I'm going to join the Actabar. You should also join the Actabar. And we're going to do the thing that we said that we were going to. And she kind of spirals because that is a lot of information. And so also that day she goes home and her adoptive mother reveals that she is the blood daughter of the Warden of Strength. And so she is going through it. She gets high as hell. And she's like, I want to see who stole my place. Sneaks into Anor's room. And Anor traps her with magic. She's just like, oh, this is funky. Someone's in my room. That's insane. So
She's like, oh, it worked.
that worked. Oh my God, I did so good. So Anor asks for Sila's help. Basically, she's like, listen, I'm not going to get you like in trouble for stealing into my room. And she also thinks that Sila is an assassin. She's like, oh, you are an assassin, aren't you? She's like, yeah, definitely an assassin. So she's like, okay, I'm not going to get you in trouble for trying to murder me if you help me train for the Aktabar, because she has decided that she wants to win the Aktabar and become the disciple under her mother, because no one thinks she can do it.
So she's like, obviously I have to
she's like,
do it.
yeah, I'm gonna do it now. So everyone's like, don't do that. And she's like, I'm gonna. But now she's like, wait, and I have assassin that I have captured who will definitely help me. And Sila decides, because she doesn't know any blood magic, because only people with red blood can do it, and she was raised by dusters who have blue blood. So she's like, okay, I will get her to help me do blood magic, learn blood magic, and she will teach John the blood magic that she learns from Anor. So Anor thinks that Sila is just taking on this role in order to perfect blood magic. Sila takes it on in order to teach John, because she wants John to win the Aktabar. Because again, she misses, because she got captured in Anor's room, she missed the sign up, so she can't compete in the Aktabar. So she is like, okay, instead I'm going to get all of these blood magic lessons to help John out. So they have this deal. She pretends to be Anor's chambermaid, and this is sort of like the central plot of the book. Is she is learning blood magic from Anor and also helping train her so that she gets farther and farther in the Aktabar, so that she can keep teaching Sila magic to keep helping John. However, while this is all happening, Sila starts having a relationship with John. And she keeps being like, you gotta get me back into the sandstorm. He's like, oh, they don't really know about you right now. They want you to do this. They want you to do this. And he keeps giving her like kind of menial tasks to do in order to get back in with the sandstorm. And then they start having a lot of sex.
Yeah.
But also she starts having some feelings with Anor develop very slowly. But it was like pretty clear that that's where we were going from the beginning.
Yeah. I think more from Anor's end at first, very much so.
Because like Sila hates Anor at the beginning. She is just like, man, she sucks. She is so stupid and evil. And yeah, she's kind of cute, but don't worry about it. So she's like trying to hate her with all of her might, but Anor is the sweetest little freaking cinnamon roll in the whole world.
Yeah, she really be.
So she doesn't. It's fine. Like, definitely this was all going to be fine. And also Anor, who has never really left her home, doesn't really know how bad it is for people out there.
Yeah.
And she starts to understand how bad it is for people out there. So now she wanted to win the Aktabar just to win it and to prove that she could. And then she suddenly decides like, wait, no, I'm going to win it to save everybody else. So, and at the same time, Sila, as she develops more and more feelings for Anor and just like learns who she is as a person, realizes that the sort of like all embers must die thing, that because that has been the whole plan, is get in charge and you don't just fix everything, you also kill every ember. And she's just kind of like, I don't know that that's right either. That doesn't seem super right. So flash forward to the right before the last trial, Anor and Sila have a little kiss. It's very cute. And Sila brings John the journal that the Sandstorm wanted. They wanted this journal of the Warden of Strength because they wanted to see more information about like day-to-day life. And Sila has been keeping it because it was like really, really mean about Anor. And she just kind of felt like very conflicted about like putting all of this information in the hands of the Sandstorm. And she's been putting it off. So she finally brings it to John and he tells her like honestly, though, the Sandstorm doesn't even want you. Like, I've been trying to pull you back in. Everything is your fault, he says to her, because he's a dick. And she's like, fuck this. She bails on the Sandstorm once and for all. She's like, I'm not involved in this whatsoever. Also, Hassa reveals that this entire time, she has been working in a secret organization that helps ghostings escape from the city and from the Empire. And so she has actually been like, she's undocumented. So everyone is documented.
That was wild.
But she is completely undocumented. And so she will just show up to different places and pretend to have different names. And everyone is so racist that they think that all ghosters are the same. So they just like let her do stuff. So she has been like the spy in this organization this entire time.
Yeah.
So she is like, hey, the Sandstorm is after you. Like, they're going to kill you now because John was the only thing holding them back, and you were kind of a dick to him, even though he was a dick in the first place. So then Scylla gets kidnapped by the Sandstorm. And we find out that actually Lute, who was the warden of crime, is actually the leader of the Sandstorm and was the leader of the first iteration of the Sandstorm and continued. So he has actually been training her because he created the fighting pits for her to come join and to continue to fight and to basically train for the Aktabar. So, and Jond is on his side. Jond has been working for him this entire time. So they tell her that she needs to go kill Anor because Anor has outlived her purpose. She has taught them everything that they need to know. And she says, no, I'm not going to do that, obviously. So she goes, tells Anor everything. Anor is very upset and very pissed. But she also is like, we were switched at birth. And Anor says, no, we weren't, because she has a she has like a painting of the baby that was taken who has a scar on her face and gray eyes, which Scylla doesn't have. So Scylla actually isn't this baby. So they all told her that she was the daughter of the Warden of Strength for reasons. But Scylla knows exactly who it was. It was a girl that she actually watched die when the Sandstorm was wiped out in the first place. So she's messed up.
Like extra guilt.
Super guilt. Super, super guilt. So we are finally at the final trial, which is all of the trials have been different things. They've been, like tactical things or, bow and arrow tests or whatever. But this final one is like just combat, just full combat. And Anor is not going to be able to win. No. Which Scylla originally was like, that's fine. I don't need her to win. I need John to win. But now she's like, John sucks. I can't let her win. So instead, Scylla drugs Anor and puts on her armor, goes out and wins the strength trial. So Anor becomes the new disciple of strength. They make up. It's very cute. But she also is like, Scylla, you need to get the hell out of here. So she tells Scylla to escape with Hassa and the ghostlings and just come back to me one day, right? So at the very, very end of the book, Scylla is running away, and she's trying to catch up to Hassa and the ghostings, but Lute catches up to her and confronts her. She has Jond with her, so Jond and Lute come to what's the word I'm looking for? Confront her. Jond and Lute come to try to confront her, and she kills Lute because she's awesome and she's the main character.
About time.
But then his blood is yellow,
So
and we have
what the
no
hell?
idea what's going on with that. Literally, my plot summary ends with, "Oh, his blood is yellow. So what the fuck is up with that?" No idea. Book ends.
End of book 1.
End of book 1.
Yeah, that was a ride.
It was a ride. First impressions?
I didn't know where this was
ago?
gonna go at all. No, I want to say that when we first get into like the very beginning and we're introduced to Scylla, and I'm like, what is happening? And we're like, okay, we're able to pick up the pieces that are like there's something bad had happened to her, something causing her to have trauma, so she's coping with drugs, and stuff is happening, but like, where are we going to go with this? I was very curious. And then we got, Hunger Games with, like, there was another reference of, like, another story set up that I just lost out of my brain, but, like, The Prince and the Pauper.
Oh, absolutely.
Hunger Games,
I thought
the
that
whole thing.
The very beginning, when it was like, I got switched at birth with her, I was like, this is Prince and the Pauper 100%.
Right. Thank God it didn't completely go that route.
Correct.
But yeah, so with those things being like brought up immediately, I was like, well, where is this? Is this going to get like kind of lame?
Yeah.
But no, it didn't. It didn't get lame.
No, it didn't.
It actually continued to be delightful in like a really tragic way.
Oh yeah.
Always.
I felt like right at the beginning, what I really appreciated, because like I got ADHD and sometimes like I can't retain what the hell is happening. So if there's too much info too fast and I'm supposed to be picking up like all of these aspects of the world, I get really lost and confused and frustrated. And I did not feel that with this. I felt like it was very straightforward, but the world is huge.
Yeah.
And she did just such a good job of leading you to where you needed to be.
Yeah.
And like I felt like I totally understood the Tidewind. And she didn't like sit there and say like, this is this. You know, there was like some description of that, but it just mostly was just like they mention it in passing and then you kind of see what happens with it.
Yeah.
And there's so much of it.
It was also one of the trials, so that helped you really like understand it better.
Yep.
And I was like, whoa.
No, she did such an incredible job of the world building and like seeing everything. I
did find that I could find a lot more elements that I could relate to other things, but knew that it was different. I had read it's a YA book called The Darkening, and it's because it's similar in the regard that the like world that it is more like a city, and then it's surrounded by this dark storm, and then it's moving in onto the city. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's that, but like this. When she brought up Anur singing this like lullaby, I was like, bro, you guys just totally messed yourselves up by doing this.
Yes.
And I was like, when is someone going to listen to her sing?
I know.
I was like, she's clearly telling you stuff. But everyone was like, oh no, it's just a lullaby. I was like,
is it though?
But is it?
I know.
But yeah, like I could find things that I found relatable and understandable, but it was still enough nuance to it that allowed it to be its own thing.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
So that was a lovely.
It's such a vivid story. It is, like, I use the word vivid a lot, but like this one is.
Just trust me.
It just has so many facets, but also like it's not like Game of Thrones where there's like 50,000 people doing something and they're all doing the same stuff in different areas, but they don't know each other, and you have to keep track of the politics in everywhere. It's concise enough, and we mostly just follow those three women. We follow Hassa and Sila and Anur, and that's kind of it. Yeah, and you get to see everything through them, which is awesome.
And then like you only get outside of that perspective when they do the intros to the chapters.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and those were so interesting.
And I liked how they were all like slightly different. So some of them were like a reader or a storyteller that's called a griot.
Yep.
Some of them were thoughts from the journals. Some of them were just like story.
They'll be like
it was
excerpts from things. So like history texts or journals or storytellers from the griot or whatever. That just kind of help you flesh out the story in a way that wouldn't be organic if they were just like sort of dropped in elsewhere.
Yeah.
I loved that.
But it really did help solidify, okay, so this history is real, or this one's like, maybe we need to think about this one a little bit more. Yeah. And so when they did like the big reveals, I didn't feel necessarily like a lot of shock by them, but I was able to be like, that's still a pretty solid reveal.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's rude. But
I
like,
knew so early on that she was not the daughter of the Warden of Strength.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What I thought was going to happen was that the child wasn't a girl and it was John. That John was the child until we find out that there's like the scar on the face. Because John has gray eyes, I think. And that was like one of the significant features. But then it's like when we talk about the scar on the baby, I was like, okay, well, we would notice probably if John had a huge scar. Like that would come up.
They described him a lot.
Like,
physically.
So that didn't come up. So, but I was like, that was what I was expecting. I was expecting to like know who it was. But I thought that reveal was fine too. Because I did think that is bound to happen, you know, just like someone is involved here that died. I mean, that's like Rogue One vibes, you know?
Not
like,
everything is directly connected to this one single family that impacts the entire universe. I did appreciate that as well. Like there was very realistic, like little bits that, you might not know this information, or the entire cover up that Hassa like helps us learn. And I was like, well, no, duh. Like, of course this is what happened because this is what's happening in the real world right now.
Oh yeah, and that was rough.
I was like, ugh, but also I knew this was happening.
Yeah.
It's like you could feel it like in your gut. You're like, something's not right about the sandstorm, something's not right about this.
For sure.
And I know she put the map in there on purpose for us to like question that, but I wasn't sure like how far into the map we were going to go.
Yep.
So clearly that's going to be somewhere in the second book. And so I'm curious. I am very curious to see, because there's 3 of them now. I'm curious to see how far into the other world we get.
Yeah.
And how much that impacts the original world.
Exactly. I am so excited to see what Honora does as the disciple.
I know. I'm scared for her.
I'm so scared for her, especially because Sila's leaving. Like Sila leaves at the end, and so she doesn't have Sila with her.
I was like, what's Gorn going to do for her?
What's Gorn going to do? She's going to try.
She's going to love her to death, but like still.
Yeah.
Uka's terrifying. Uka is the Warden of Strength.
Uka is Honora's mother, who sucks so much. She used to like trap Honora in a closet for days on end and just abandon her. Yeah,
because she was the child that replaced her child.
Yeah, which is like, hey, guess whose fault that's not? Honora's. Yeah, so Honora is the only one that wasn't killed specifically because Uka couldn't reveal that like basically she was compromised. Yeah. So she couldn't be like, hey, my child also got stolen, because then it's like, how did your child get stolen?
Logically, that makes a lot of sense. But also, you're a tyrant.
Yeah. Absolute lunatic. She sucks. Yeah. I also, the very first note that I wrote down is, I love Honora so much. She is everything to me. I loved her.
Every moment with her was just like a funny little Did you really?
She's also so me. The next thing that I wrote down is, Honora tried to wink, but both of her eyes closed. That's me. That's just me. I loved her. She's so awkward and silly, but also so naive.
So naive, but then you like watching her character growth. I was like, I knew you were gonna get your little like arc, and one of my concerns was that she was just going to get, Sila was just going to have her like hero redemption arc. But actually it's way more complicated than that. Yeah. And they do approach it. We still get the like betrayal and then the anger and then they fight. But like Honora becomes this like grown up.
She does.
And then Sila's like actually becomes pretty soft.
Yeah.
And they kind of like swap spot, because Sila ends up crying a lot towards the end. And I'm like, damn, girl. No, like really, but like, damn.
Yeah, I know.
And then Honora's like, I'm going to go kick some ass now.
I know. Well, like the quote that really like stuck with me the most, I had to like, I was driving when I was listening to this part, and I paused it and I waited until I got home, and then I sat down and I went back and I had to get it down word for word, because like this to me is like the turning point for Honora.
Oh, sure.
And it just for her is like the most visible display of everything is so fucked up.
Yeah.
So she accidentally stumbles into an execution. Yeah. So I'm not going to describe the execution because it is pretty vivid.
Yeah.
But it is graphic and it is very scary to watch. And she hasn't even been out of like basically her home grounds.
Yeah.
Because she has lived with the daughter of the Warden of Strength and then now the Warden of Strength for so long that they have like, fancy accommodations. And so she doesn't get out. And so she doesn't know. There's so much about the world she doesn't know. So she doesn't know about, I think this execution is for dalliances outside your blood.
Yes.
So this is a duster, I believe, who had a relationship with an ember.
Yes.
Which is illegal. And she's like, that's not execution worthy. That's just like a fine. And then she realizes, oh, that's just a fine for embers. I don't know what happens to dusters. And then she finds out because she has to watch it. So
and then she like throws up and is crumbled on the side of the road. Yeah.
So she has this moment. She watches that execution and she says it's the realization that if she won the Akdabar, she would be the one turning the notches on every rack in every city, even if her hands weren't the ones turning the wheel.
Yeah.
So she is like, oh my God, if I win, I am going to be the person put basically in charge of justice, and I am going to make that decision. And so for her, she was like, do I even do this? But then she comes to the realization, I can change that.
Yeah.
Like instead of just like, oh no, because at first her thought is like, I'm going to be responsible for this. But then she sits with it for a while and then she realizes, I don't have to be responsible for this if I change it.
Yeah.
And so then like her driving force is, I'm going to win the Akdabar to change things for the better. It's partially because she's been disrespected her whole life by her mother for being a duster.
Right.
But she also knows that like no one can tell that she's a duster.
Yeah.
So it's like, so are the problems with the Bloods really that big of a deal?
Right. And then she just gets discriminated on because she's softer and apparently quote unquote slower and can't do things as blah blah blah. It's like, well, she's trying to hide like 90% of herself.
Exactly. So like she's doing what you need her to do, but she's also not doing it good enough because you also want her to be like this champion or something.
Yeah. They're all so condescending to her. Like she's forced to be in this class for what, like 3 extra years or something crazy like that.
Yeah, she has to be in that blood magic class.
Yeah.
But then also, fun plot twist, we find out at the end when Hassa does some blood magic that it's not just embers that can do blood magic.
Which I was like, it's blood. What do you mean that they can't do it?
No, exactly.
No,
but like they have just been told this whole time in order to basically keep the social structure as it is, that you can only do blood magic. So she never does blood magic. Honor never does blood magic with her own blood. She is very good at it, but she has to use, what's her name? Gorn's. So she's very good at it, but she has to use Gorn's blood. So she just like gives her some blood because she can't reveal to anybody what color her blood is or else everyone will know she's a duster. So instead, she just uses Gorn's blood, pretends it's hers, and everyone just thinks she's just not very good at blood magic because her stuff doesn't work very well, but it's because it's not very fresh.
Yeah.
Because they have like styluses that actually like take the blood, they poke themselves basically to get their blood to make sure that they like get fresh blood basically.
Yeah.
So she never really tried it. Or no, she did. She knows that, but she can never publicly do it because it would be the wrong
so
color
then
blood.
No one else knows.
So she knows that you can do blood magic if you're not.
Yeah, she's just like, yeah, I knew that. And I was like, damn.
And the ghostings know because actually the ghostings were the ones that taught the embers how to do blood magic before the rebellion, and then we killed them all. We didn't kill them all.
Like, I knew as they were like revealing the whole history of that of course they were the ones that originally did anything, but to have it, I don't know, it just seemed so important for them to be the ones to also teach them and then have
Yep.
them, because it makes me then wonder, what did they do in their original homeland
Yeah.
that made them leave and then be and terrorize an entire population?
Yep.
I was like, so you guys must have been ostracized and, you know, did what we did here in America.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
at least we didn't cut off every baby's hands, but
That is correct.
we still fucked them over. So
Yeah, and we still killed a lot of them. But
we did.
we do not currently
With the disease.
with the disease, but we don't currently take children and just chop off their tongues and hands.
No. It is a very graphic. That's one thing I will say. This one, I had to pause at a couple different
Yeah.
situations because I was like, every time.
Yeah.
Every time. And I was like, you could stop saying that. But I was like, but it's real. Like, that's how that would happen. You would get eventually desensitized to it. And that's why everyone's like, yeah, like, go chop off the children's stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like,
No.
no,
Yeah.
you're ruining humans. Apparently they weren't humans, so
Yeah.
dehumanization.
Yep.
God.
But God, it's so good. It's such a wonderful novel.
Yeah. Oh, my favorite element, even the most evil people still respected the non-binary humans.
Oh my God, I loved that. I was going to say that. Yeah, there are people who use they, them, and we don't talk about it besides just like, oh,
Yep, there they are.
that's them.
And then this one is, yeah, like someone who works with Hassa is, and then they're like their mother
yeah,
figure.
like they're, yeah,
But they
the
are.
person who raised her.
What are they? Damn, I had the word. It starts
I don't
with like an
remember.
M, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But they would just like be like, yeah, this is them, ladies, gentlemen, and them. And I was like, you guys legitimately just like pull people apart. But
Yeah.
you're just like, yeah, no, there's a tertiary, like whatever
Well, yeah.
middle grade thing
Duh.
that you do. And I was like,
Exactly.
even the most evil, they were just, nah, gender's like not real.
Yeah,
But
it's
like,
just
if
well,
you
and
do,
I do
cool.
love that they say that sometimes. Like, there are mixes of that.
Yeah.
There's like, yeah, it's like this person uses they them. They also use mother. They're
Yeah.
still they them. Like that. It doesn't matter because all of those are just words.
Yeah.
No, I loved that. That was so casual and it was just done so beautifully.
And it wasn't just like one couple was queer or like questioning. It was like there were several different examples throughout the whole thing where there was like a different kind of relationship and they were just trying to like live their lives, trying to
Yeah.
survive, just doing whatever. And I'm just like, oh,
I love that.
you mean like people?
like real people?
they do
wow.
that? I was like, this is such a terrible place, but also
Yeah.
they're so respectful.
But just like casual queer respect.
like,
And I loved it.
yeah, I loved having that as an option to read. I hate that it has to be a fantasy novel,
Yeah.
but I love
But it
that
was
that was
so
even
good.
included. Did a great job incorporating that and making it feel like it was actually a part of the story.
Yeah.
And like, because you also do that in some novels where it's like typically a white author and they're like trying to be diverse, but
Yeah.
they just fall flat.
Yep.
This didn't have that issue.
It didn't. It was just, it felt so natural.
Yeah, because it is.
Because it is.
In case you didn't know, we have opinions. Very strong ones.
If you got here and didn't know that, why are you here?
Damn, it's been almost 2 years, guys. The last thing that I made a mental note of was we get to like the epilogue and it starts talking about the sand. And there was this stupid video that came out when like the prequels of Star Wars came out.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, the sand is so sandy. And it's Anakin being angsty in this
Oh,
like
I
stick
remember
figure.
this.
And that's been like one of my favorite stupid jokes that Joe and I will just throw out there randomly.
I love that.
And it's like immediately what popped in my head because she was like, it's everywhere. It's in my ass. And
I literally thought, I didn't think about that video, but I did think about Anakin Skywalker when she was talking about it being everywhere.
I was like, I don't know if the author knew this, but I think it would have been really funny if that's why that was
Yeah.
incorporated. But yeah, I was like, all right, that's a great way to end this. I was also very pleased with the death of Loot, because by the time there was like way earlier on that I was like, can we just kill him?
Oh yeah, I mean he was there through the whole book, just
So
being a skis bag.
annoying.
But like his husband is such an angel.
I know. I was like,
wow, why
why?
the hell are you with this guy?
And then he has to die.
And then he has to die. Yeah.
Sad. Because like the whole time he's like, no, Sila. And I'm like, dude,
Sila,
maybe
you're too
you
good for
should
this. I know.
just
You
leave.
need to bail.
But no, that's not what happens.
No.
That's fine. But yes, lovely queer fantasy
Absolutely
read.
phenomenal book.
I don't know how else to say that without saying it again.
I know.
It was great. I really enjoyed this. I think I enjoyed it more than I anticipated. I just never know with a series what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard terrible things about the sequel, so I'm hoping that's a good thing, and maybe people aren't just not talking about it.
Yeah.
Because that happens. I think the other series we listened to was Catherine Arden's.
Yep. Winter Night Trilogy.
Where the sequel kind of got a little foggy for me. Like, it wasn't super clear. And then the third one, I enjoyed it. It was very lovely, but there was something about it that kept like this fogginess in my head. And maybe it's just because it was Russia and I kept thinking about Russia.
Yeah.
But this one, it was, like you said, it was so clear, and like you could really understand what was happening.
Easy to follow what was happening, but not in like a this doesn't have a plot kind of way.
Yeah. No.
She did such a good job like telling the story in a way that made you follow along.
Very much, because I also, maybe the ADHD, struggle to like keep attention to details, but she brought them up so naturally.
Yeah.
And in repeated times where I was like, oh,
I do know what's happening.
Now this person actually has like a character that I can follow, and it's not just the leads. Like, after just a short period of time, I was like, oh, I know who Hassa is and who her mom is, and the lady that had the Jojo.
The Jojo Bee? No.
Yes, like she was the one that Sila had to go get it
like
from.
Like the madam.
Yeah,
basically.
the madam. I was like, oh, she's got a character, but like she like naturally left the story, and it didn't really impact anything, and it didn't feel weird that she popped in and out. Like, I was like,
because she's just like a person. She's got her own stuff going on.
Yeah, clearly. So I was like, this person knows how to write so well.
Seriously.
And I'm like, oh, duh, that's why they have numerous novels. But like, I think this was one of their earlier ones. So I'm just like, oh, I guess I'll have to go read more things.
Yeah.
Add even more things to my list. Although the sequel will probably just bump up a little higher, because I do now need to know what the heck is up with Yellow Blood.
Yep, I know.
And is there orange or green? What's happening?
Yeah, and like why don't we know that?
Is it because they eat food? Like, what's happening? Why is their blood different? Or is it
just like a simple fact of like, just like birth, like, it's people from these other countries, their color,
do they
blood
mix
is different.
To make purple?
Exactly.
I'm like,
that's
is
what I
there
was
green
thinking.
happening?
Like, is it just a situation where like, if a blue-blooded person and a red-blooded person do have a child, is it purple? Or would they just take
what
one of their
with
blood?
The translucent ones?
Yeah.
Like that one,
I don't know.
the translucent one like trips me up completely. I was like, so they just bleed and no one knows.
It just kind of like looks like water, I guess.
Like, that's how they revealed that actually they had marks everywhere, and it was their blood that was making all of the marks, because you can't see them. And I was like, that was a good detail.
Yep.
That was smooth. So I wonder how early on that was decided on. But yeah, anyway. Go read the book.
Go read the book.
I feel very strongly about this one.
Yep.
And I think you should read all of the books we've read, except maybe The Unbearable Lightness of Being.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that if you are like a philosophy student.
Yeah, read that for sure. I know someone who's super into like literature that works at the library. They were like, oh, how'd you feel? And I was like, it was hard to read. And they're like, yeah, it's very philosophical.
It was hard to read.
But this one, I think anyone could easily pick up, be introduced to fantasy and queer, and just really vibe with it. And I think it'd be really easy grab. And maybe I'm biased, but I think it was.
No,
fun.
I thought it was great.
We're also the same.
We are also the same. We need Ryan. Ryan, we miss you.
Come tell us if this was a good book in your opinion.
I don't know if you still listen to these when you're not on it,
Which
but
is
we miss you.
Sad. I'll be like, hey, Ryan, you need to go listen to at least the last 5 minutes. Okay, so we should bring up the next book.
Yes, so the next book we're going to read, which is going to come out... Wait, I should do this before I try. Okay. So the next book that we're going to read, which is going to come out on April 29th, is going to be It Just Went Away. Please hold. Everything's fine. We're going to start over. The next book we're going to read, which is going to come out on April 29th, is going to be When the Ground is Hard by Mala Nun. I don't know if I pronounced that right. As always, it's for Eswatini.
It was formerly known as Swaziland.
So, yes.
This is a country that, once again, I am uninformed about.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. But I do know that there is an audiobook.
Fantastic.
Which is how I make a lot of these decisions.
That's wise, honestly.
It is a country in Africa
Hey, look
that
at
was
us.
once known as Swaziland.
Because colonialism.
Because colonialism.
Which will always be a bit of the discussion when it comes to everywhere.
Yep. True.
I was going to say Africa, but I was like, no, it's actually everywhere. It's actually everywhere. Cool. And then after that, you might see or hear from Ryan. You're not going to see him, but you might hear from him.
What if we have our Ryan back?
Maybe. We'll see. We'll poke him. We'll let you know. Maybe.
Or maybe one day he just shows up.
Probably more likely.
Probably.
Okay, cool. What do we do? And that's it?
We don't.
Oh, did you say the date? Yeah, you said April 29th.
I did.
Okay, cool. Well, then, yeah, all right, bye.
Bye.
See you next time.
The suppression. The use of marijuana.
This podcast was brought to you in part by KCUN.
Yeah, we could say that.
Please tell me you recorded that.
89.3 FM, KCUN.
Perfect.